In this video, we're going to be going over what are all of the best weapons that you want to be unlocking inside Vanguard's multiplayer. Now, it's been out for a while and we kind of know what are the meta weapons and what are not. So if you enjoy content like this and you want to see more videos on Vanguard's multiplayer, don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're very close to achieving that goal, so if you are new, make sure you subscribe and also click the link in the description and subscribe to our main channel as well. We will be posting a lot of content when the integration does take place inside Warzone as well. But let's get on into this list, and before we do that, I do want to mention we're not going to be covering launchers or melee weapons because I don't really use either of those weapon categories. We will be covering the pistols as well as the primary weapons, and that is because those are all the weapons that most people will be using. So let's kick off this list. We've got the 1911s. The 1911s are pretty solid. I wouldn't say like they're some of the best weapons in the game because they're not, but they do fire relatively quick, and for a secondary option, if you do put the correct attachments on it, it's pretty solid. Then we've got the 3-line rifle, which is a mid-tier sniper. Definitely not the best sniper in the game, but it is definitely the second best sniper rifle in the game in my opinion. Then we've got the Kar 98, which is the worst sniper in the game. I would not recommend using this sniper rifle for any reason whatsoever. It doesn't have the fastest fire rate, it doesn't have the highest amount of damage, and it doesn't even have the fastest ADS time, to be perfectly honest. And that means that the Type 99 is the best sniper in the game and the meta sniper rifle in my opinion. You've got the vital proficiency with that one as well if you do need it. But like I said, this sniper rifle outputs the most amount of damage, and it's definitely the one that you want to be using because you're going to get that one-shot kill potential pretty much all of the time. Next up we have the VOLK. Now, the VOLK is mid-tier. Now, it being fully automatic and being an assault rifle in general is going to make it a mid-tier weapon, especially for multiplayer. But the fact that it's got an absolute ton of recoil, even though you put the best attachments on there, is not going to be the best assault rifle in the game if you're looking for that long-range engagements. So, like I said, the VOLK's mid-tier. AS44 is top tier. Got a bit more recoil than the average assault rifle in this game, but it does output a good amount of damage, and the recoil can be managed unlike the VOLK. So I definitely think that the AS44 is mid tier. Automaton is a meta weapon, super low recoil with the correct attachments. It doesn't output loads of damage, but because it has a really fast fire rate, it's going to be very forgiving, and that is why the Automaton is probably the best assault rifle in the game right now. In my personal opinion, and probably of the opinion of most people you asked that have actually used the weapon. Then we've got the BAR, which is the bar assault rifle, whatever you want to call it. It's pretty much the opposite of the Automaton. It hits a bit harder, but it fires a lot slower. So if you do like that kind of feel of weapon that fires a little bit slower, then the bar is a really good option as well. It does have a little bit of recoil, but not an absolute ton, not to the point where you can't manage it. You do want to put that recoil proficiency on there as well to help out with recoil a little bit more. Next up, we've got the Type 100 SMG. The Type 100 SMG is the best SMG in the game. Super low recoil, a decent TTK, and if you put the correct attachments on it, it's going to fry in this game, and it's going to allow you to get those kind of mid-range gunfights, especially when you don't run overkill on multiplayer for the most part. It is an absolute solid weapon, so definitely the best SMG in my opinion overall. Next, we've got the Bren LMG. I would not recommend using this. LMG is probably the worst one. Also, it blocks like the majority of your screen as well, which doesn't help. But it's got an absolute ton of recoil. Doesn't matter which way you kit it out. So it's not something I would recommend using inside multiplayer. Combat shotgun is top tier still. Even though they nerfed the range on the combat shotgun, it's still a top tier weapon. It's still one of the better close range options as well. Double barrel shotgun is viable, but not quite as good as the combat shotgun because you only get 2 rounds to fire, then you need to reload to do that animation, which is just going to probably get you caught out most times than not, especially considering the TTK of this game is right around 250 milliseconds, which is pretty quick. Next up, we have the DP27, and that is going to be top tier. It is a pretty solid LMG. It's got relatively low recoil for the most part. You can get a pretty large mag. The only issue you're going to have with this is going to slow you down an absolute ton because it is an LMG. That's kind of one of the drawbacks of using LMGs overall. Then we've got the G43. If you use the fully automatic barrel on this gun and then pretty much equip most of it for range and the fastest possible TTK when it comes to the ammo types, this gun is actually really quick at killing and is very accurate even at range with the full auto. It just makes it a little bit easier to use than some of the other semi-automatic rifles. So if you do want a slightly different option, go for the G43 with the full auto barrel. It's actually a really good class setup. Then we've got the ITRA Burst, pretty much a terrible gun. Most burst rifles in this game are pretty bad, which is pretty much, this is the only one I think, but in general, burst rifles are not that good inside any COD game, so like I said, not the best rifle to use. We've got the Gracey Auto Shotgun. The Gracey Auto Shotgun is absolutely mid-tier, not as good as the combat shotgun in my opinion, not as bad as the double barrel, but definitely still a solid option if you want to try something different out. The revolving shotgun, in my opinion, is just as good as the combat shotgun if you do want something with a little bit more ammo in it and fires a little bit quicker. Then the revolving shotgun is pretty solid. Then we've got the STG. I do still think the STG is a meta weapon. Super low recoil, kind of one of the main reasons why most people still stick to this gun, because it absolutely fries at range if you do kit out with the correct attachments. MP40 I do still think is a meta SMG. It's not the best SMG in the game, but it's absolutely one of the reasons why people still use this SMG is because it is pretty solid, and I would still recommend using it if you haven't unlocked anything else, which is pretty bad at this point if you haven't unlocked any other weapons. We've then got the SVT, which I believe to be the best marksman rifle in the game. If you want a very accurate semi-automatic rifle at long range, the SVT is the absolute best, and you get that vital proficiency as well, so you can use it if you need to. The best pistol is the full auto pistol. I wouldn't say it's a meta weapon. It is a meta pistol, but it's not a meta weapon overall, so I would put it in the mid tier. I definitely do think it's absolutely solid, the best pistol in the game in my opinion. We then have the revolvers as well, and again, maybe if you use them akimbo, they're kind of viable, but to be honest, they're not really the best option. Even in multiplayer, they're not that good. They just fire a bit too slow in my opinion, so I would not really recommend it overall. Then we've got the Clouser pistols. Again, they are pretty much the same as the 1911s, more or less, semi-automatic pistol. Can't really go too wrong with that. Then we've got the MG34, and that is the best LMG in the game, absolutely 100%. If you put the correct attachments on this LMG, it absolutely beams, which is pretty weird, but it's got pretty low recoil. If you want to see what the class setup is for that weapon, you could check out our LMG video, because we show you exactly why this gun absolutely fries, and that will be linked at the end of this video, by the way. Then we've got the Tommy gun. Tommy gun's top tier. It does have a little bit of recoil, but because it's an SMG, you should be using it at closer ranges, but it absolutely packs a punch. It pretty much does an absolute ton of damage because it has that lower fire rate as well, but you do need to manage the recoil of this weapon. PPSH is mid-tier. The recoil is just all over the place with this gun. It would be really good because the TTK values on the PPSH are very good, but because the recoil is like so fast side to side, it's just really hard to control for even the best of best players, so I would not really recommend it. We have the Sten. The Sten is also, I would say, either between mid-tier and top tier here. It's a pretty solid SMG for the most part. Recoil is not too bad. TTK is not too bad as well. Very easy to use. But like I said, there is some slightly better options. I do think the Tommy gun is better. Then we have the OWEN gun. I do think the OWEN gun's actually a meta SMG. It absolutely packs a punch. It's a super solid SMG to use. I feel like I've not lost any gunfights when I use the OWEN gun. Then we have the M1 Garand. M1 Garand is actually a mid-tier weapon, in my opinion. It could be almost top tier. It's got a pretty decent fire rate. It's an okay marksman rifle. Not the best marksman rifle, and it's not quite as good as the other two options that we have, but it's definitely a solid weapon. You can definitely get away with using this gun if you want to try it out. Then we've got the NZ41. I actually think this is a meta weapon in my opinion. It has a slow fire rate, but it also has pretty much no recoil as well. So absolutely solid weapon if you kit it out with the correct attachments. I've actually had a ton of fun using this gun, and you can wallbang for days, especially in Das House. So I really recommend using this. It is going to aim down sight a little bit slower than your average weapon, but for long range, it's absolutely solid. We've got another semi-automatic pistol, which again can go in the viable category. And then we've got the Type 11, which is another really bad LMG in my opinion. It just moves a bit too slow, similar to the Bren. They're just not very good at all. So there we have it. That is the list for all of the meta weapons inside Vanguard's multiplayer. As you can imagine, the list for multiplayer is going to be a lot bigger when it comes to what's meta and what's not meta than what is going to be for Warzone. Because a lot of things need to be taken into consideration for that. The TTK multiplayer is super quick, so most weapons can be used overall. But hopefully this gives you an idea of what weapons to use. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave it a like, also subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.